Hey folks, we're back with another video, and today we're talking about backing tracks, because apparently every year boomers find something to complain about a band that plays with backing tracks. So today we're checking out what backing tracks can do for your band and what they do specifically for my band, Inherit the Ashes. We're having a look inside Reaper, where I will show you how I set up our backing tracks and what they do for us live, with all of the other good stuff that you see on the big screen right now. So yeah, let's dive in. So first things first, I think Sleep Token was caught using backing tracks because their guitarist and their bassist had COVID or something, and instead of cancelling the show, they had the tracks run from their computer, which aren't even the studio tracks, they're the live tracks apparently, because their front of house records every show to do like a digital sound check, which is something most bigger bands do anyways. Like with the band that I tour with, the plan is for the future that we also record every single show so that we can do digital sound checks every time we get into a new venue, so that the band theoretically doesn't even have to be on stage for the entire sound check. They can just chill, and I can go just do my job as a front of house person and just, set things up, and then have like a very quick check through all of the important stuff. But anyways, so apparently people would rather have Sleep Token cancel the show than play them without the guitarist and the bassist, and that's just something I don't understand. I mean, sure, you paid to see a band perform, but also, is it really? I mean, you've been hyping yourself up for like a half a year in advance to see the band, to hear the songs live, and then only to find out that on the day, yeah, it's not going to happen. I personally think that any show cancellation is worse than playing a show with backing tracks. We even played 2 shows in our career as Inherit the Ashes by now. One where we opened for Escuela, Jan had COVID, so we played without the guitar, because the guitar is the only thing that we can actually replace, because, vocals and bass is super hard for us, because I play both. I do the main vocal and the bass, so if I'm sick, there's just drums and guitar live happening, and no one of neither Norman nor Jan likes talking to people into a microphone, so it would be an awkward live show, let's just put it that way. Drums really need to be in the room, because even in big arenas like, 3,000, 4,000 capacity arenas, you can still sort of feel the actual drum kit on stage, just sort of reverberating in the room, and it doesn't sound super good if they're just on tape, in my opinion. Which is also one of the drawbacks for digital sound checks, which is why a digital sound check never will replace an entire sound check, but it can get you like 98% there. But that's just as an aside. So backing tracks allow you to play a show without a guitarist and a bassist. Should you do it or not? Leave it in the comments. I personally think, as I said, why wouldn't you? I mean, it's technically possible. Tours of the size that Sleep Token tours are cost a whole heaping shit ton of money. Like, I don't think people actually realize how expensive touring is, and how expensive a front of house person is, that you pay for it, likely for the off day even, how expensive the bus rental is, the overhead just for merch and for all of the upfront expenses that you have to recoup, and every day that doesn't happen is, I have no idea how many people show up to a Sleep Token concert, but let's just go with like a flat 5K. If out of those 5,000, 1,000 buy merch items for like, let's say $20 to $30 each, now you can sort of see why people don't cancel shows on tours, or would rather play shows on tours than cancel, because they financially depend on it for the shows to happen. I mean, that's their job, It's like, if you didn't get paid sick leave at work, which to my American viewers, hi, this is you. Us Europeans and I think Canadians as well get paid sick leave when we're sick, so we get if we're employed. I am not. I'm self-employed, so when I'm sick, I either go to work or I don't get paid. That's just how it is. But for musicians especially, because so much of their financial stability depends on this one tour happening, those one or two dates like have a really large impact on the livelihood of those musicians. And yeah, I get it. I super get it. And I think it has a bunch to do with people just not understanding what backing tracks are. For the Sleep Token thing that we're talking about right now, I sort of get it, because you're replacing entire musicians with tracks, but tracks have been critiqued forever by people who I think just don't understand what tracks do. Alright, let's have a look. Inside the DAW. I'll move you just a bit closer. This in super old school is my sort of setup now. Starting with the pink track all the way at the top, this is my reference track. This is just the studio track that never gets played. This has the purpose of me aligning everything else. It's just there for me to program this stuff in better and more tightly. This is also slightly volume automated because the studio tracks tend to have like slightly different levels when they come out, as you hear them on Spotify basically. Below that we have the click track. That's just a click. It goes tuck 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 tuck, and it's super annoying, but it helps us stay in time, which is super important for us to stay in time, because we also run tracks, which is what I think most people refer to as backing tracks, but technically all of this could be classified as tracks. And the tracks are the thing in green, which is just a stereo track that runs all of our orchestral samples and bass drops. Below that, in grayed out right now, is a guitar track, which we only use when Jan is down with COVID. So we've used that twice in our career so far. Those are also not the studio tracks. Those are the tracks that Jan played in as a one take at some point. Yeah, so we could use them live. And below that in yellow is our lighting control, which is basically just MIDI information that looks sort of like this. Just a bunch of MIDI notes that control our lighting setup. Our lighting setup isn't anything super special. It's just 3 bars, and they sort of align with our music quite a bit, actually. Now, what does all of this do? Let's get back to my face. Yeah. What all of this does is, let's start with Florida Man right here, and I'll solo the track. Solo reference track for Florida Man sounds like this. As you can tell, this is just a studio recording. It's, as I said before, it's just there. It has the tempo on top of it. It's 175 beats per minute in 4/4, if anyone is taking notes. And that's that. That's just there to align the click track, the bass drops, and the lighting, so that I know where stuff goes and when it happens. Also, it tells me something else, but we'll get into logistics of tracks later. Below that, we have the click track. That's like the most important thing for us, but the most boring thing for everybody else. And that's what that does. It just goes 1, 2, 3, 4 in our head until the song stops. And then we stop. which helps us stay in time with all of the rest of the tracks, which means we are in time with our lighting and we're in time with the bass drops and the orchestral samples. Could you imagine just playing to the orchestral samples and bass drops and having to keep time for that? It's nuts. And I mean, what do you want me to do? Carry around 3 cellos and sometimes a synth player? We're a 3-piece band. We're a tiny operation. There's not much money going in or out of this band. That's just what happens. And for backing tracks, for Florida Man, we have bass drops. And I think it's just bass drops. For Realms of Fire,
believing that they are righteous and they think that they're doing...
we have a speech sample on there. And for everything else, we have sort of orchestral samples that sound like this. So they're full, things that I programmed in BBC Orchestra at some point. They're stereo panned and they're super depending on being legible, I guess, or audible, because they're an integral part of our sound. I think we could get away without them, but they enhance our music. We can absolutely play without all the bells and whistles, but it makes for a better show if we have them. Which is what separates us from bands like, 90% of most modern metalcore, I think. They have a bunch of techno samples on there that are integral to their songs and whatnot. And we have one of those as well in a song that you are yet to hear if you haven't heard us live, which I think is right around here. So there's one of those drum fills in there, and at one point we have a guitar intro that sounds like this. And it does the old techno electronic music trick of doing an envelope sweep, which means it goes from and then it opens up sort of. And because that's super hard to replicate actually live, we put it on a track because it's what the track sounds like in the studio or in our demo version of the studio version, because there's not an actual studio version of it yet. And so we wanted to replicate that live, and that's the way we do it. Between songs we have interludes that are just random passages of ambient music that I wrote and recorded to have something to talk over, because if you've been to a show where there's been especially heavy shows, super extreme metal shows, they all tend to be super awkward, because it's and then nothing happens for 45 seconds, absolutely nothing, and there's a person on stage going, I think we broke a string over there. And for us, that's never going to be a point, because yes, whatever stage banner I have is usually awkward, but it also has this behind it, and it just ties it into the show, I think, a lot better than not having it. Now, this does limit the time I speak on stage as well, which is a good thing, because I could ramble on for ages on specific topics, and I do whenever we don't use the computer. We've used a SP44 sampler before, and I had just going mono samples out to one side and click track to the other side, and we split that hardware. If you want more information on how to actually run backing tracks for your band, easiest way, more complicated ways, blah blah, leave that in the comments below, and we'll get to a full-on breakdown of the setup that we have for Inherit and the ones that we had before, and you can decide if that's something that you want to get your band into or not. yeah. Alright, so now we've heard the track part. So what we have in our ears sounds like this. Let's go with a song you've heard before, maybe. Idolmaker. Alongside our instruments on stage. Yeah, all three of us sort of have the production sound on our monitors. So for the lighting, this is MIDI, so you won't be able to hear anything. But starting off with half of the intro, that gets sent to a loop MIDI port. A loop MIDI is this little tiny program over here, this white one, and all that does is create a MIDI port, so you can send MIDI to there and from there to somewhere else, without having to use an actual piece of hardware to route MIDI through, which is kind of cool. And the loop MIDI sends MIDI to .2, which is the thing on the big screen over here, which is a free lighting software by MA Lighting, and that handles all of our lighting. And as you can maybe tell, it's relatively complex, and there's things that happen when you click stuff. Over here, for example, is all of the lights. Let's see if you can. Yeah, you should be able to see these. In here. So here is the lights that we run, which is 3 bars that are split up into various DMX channels. So now they're all selected, now they're all deselected, and then I programmed some light changes in, and this one goes swoosh. Hope you like my spider background. Yeah, so that's how we use tracks live. Hope that cleared some things up. But the most important thing it does for us is it gives us a time. How long we get to play usually depends on if we open up for people or if we are the headliners of the night. And our full set currently is 48 minutes and 56 seconds long. So we have like a 1 minute buffer to get on stage and off stage for a 50-minute set, or a bit longer for an hour set, which is our standard headliner set. For crowd interaction, just, talking with you guys. Exactly. And if we have 45 minutes, we basically, all we do is we cut one track, or the intro, or the outro, or all three of those. And that usually gets us somewhere in the ballpark of a show that we could play as an opening band for, let's say, Napalm Death or Escuela, as we did in the past. And I think that is the most useful part, because especially opening for professional touring bands, that requires you to be very on time, because their entire tour is very, very time sensitive. And we've taken that to heart, and now we do like timetables and time slots for ourselves. For our shows that we headline, and for the bigger shows, we tend to err on the side of caution and rather play 43 minutes and 30 seconds than 45 minutes completely. So we have enough time on stage to get off stage, if that makes sense. So that's the Inherit the Ashes setup. I hope you dig it. If you want more information on how to set up lights in Reaper and .2 for your band, leave it in the comments. If you want to set up backing tracks for your band and you want to know how that works and how we run in-ears and stuff, also in the comments below, and I'll get to it when I get to it. Thanks a bunch. We shall see us pretty soon. I am trying to make more content these days. Alright, bye.